If you've ever wanted to be in two places at once, then Time Turned might well be a sympathetic puzzle game for you, because this is a time bending and time manipulation and time cloning puzzle game where you need to be in multiple places at the same time to solve the puzzle and exit the exploding escape room before it explodes. And this helps you try to save the world from Dr. Ineptus, who is busy locking you in various different rooms, popping on the TV from his throne and cackling away whilst throwing nasties at you. Each level starts off with you entering the level and seeing a time band across the bottom of the screen. And if you've ever done audio or video editing, you'll feel right at home with the UI. Now, you have a magical time stopping or time manipulating stopwatch, and in different rooms it will have 1, 2 or 3 buttons, and that tells you how many clones that are required to do the level and complete what you need to do. And the levels are designed in a variety of different ways that mean that you might need to have all of your clones standing on pressure pads at the same time, or it might be that you need your clones to move boxes or walls in the way so that it can protect the final clone, yourself, from enemy fire so that you can get to the exit door before the clock stops 0. And as you go throughout the game, things start to become more intricate in that you need to try and guesstimate how long it's going to take you to get from A to B, maybe trigger a switch and then get your second clone through a now open door, but then you need the first clone to then run back and do something else. So you need to sequentialize it so that you don't get one clone stuck in the wrong place. And your clones can die in some of these levels, and sometimes that's actually part of the sacrificial purpose of trying to get to the end game. So the rules do change from level to level. Sometimes your clones can die, sometimes they can't. And I'd say that's one of the few kind of annoyance quirks of this, is that it doesn't always tell you what the rules of engagement are when you walk into each level. And you have to find that usually by death. Now, as you progress through the game, you will gain more abilities too. So later on, you'll get robots that will try and track you down and kill you if they touch you, and they will just gravitate towards the closest clone that it can find or sense. And then later on, actually, the tactics turn, basically, and you get access to a gun. And so what you then need to do is shoot all of the different enemies, or maybe the different turrets, so that you can then neutralise the enemies to get to the escape room exit in time before the room explodes. And Time Turns explores lots of different types of puzzles within this game and constantly drip feeds new things for you to think about before then moving on to the next one. I did run into a few brick walls in terms of difficulty, and thankfully not only can you restart puzzles, and you can also rewind whatever current clone you're in and kind of go again to finesse some of your platforming skills. You can also skip a level too, and I have to say and be honest, I did skip a couple of levels during my playthrough, and it was in particular when often a new mechanic was brought in and it didn't really click straight away, and then other levels kind of integrate it slightly better. And so it wasn't always the last, more complicated levels that I had to skip. Sometimes it was the earlier ones that introduced new mechanics, as if it was deemed to be so simple, but I'd be sitting there going, I can't do it. And eventually I'd get to the end and I'd be fine. Now, whilst graphically this isn't anything to write home about, I do think the puzzle design is really great. And so this will be a niche title for puzzle fans, but you will need to be good at platforming to a degree too, because some things involve throwing weights or shooting guns and killing enemies in really tight time scales. And so quite a few levels towards the second half and end of this game give you only about 2 or 3 seconds wiggle room maximum to get everything perfectly right. And there's ones where you're trying to chain throw massive weights across bridges and so on and so forth between your clones that are so half a second to spare that if you don't do it perfectly, you will lose every time. And it's those couple of ones that I ended up having to skip. And it's partly skill issue for myself, But partly, sometimes the collision detection for some of this isn't perfect, and visually you look like you've cleared something or you're away from the enemies that are going to kill you, but the game deems that you're going to be killed anyway and freeze frames the game so that you then have to rewind and try again. The last thing that needs to be called out is that obviously as you add in more clones, sometimes that changes the outcome and behaviour of what's already in the room chasing you as different obstacles to overcome or kill or avoid. So sometimes levels get even more dynamic as more clones get added in, and you need to make sure that you either repeat the same thing perfectly time and time again, or structure your tactics in a way that means that you can pull all of the enemies that are going to chase you and distract them over on one side of the screen whilst you quickly try and survive on the other. Time turned isn't going to be for everyone. It's difficult and it's tricky and it's a little bit finicky in places, but my overall time with this game was a pleasant one and a satisfying one, and it didn't scratch my noggin a few times as I was trying to get to an end solution. And that's exactly what I want from a puzzle game, so it's a thumbs up from me. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.